On the day of the Holy Family, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph spiritually pass through homes, and many are not prepared to receive them. Have you noticed how some homes feel lighter? How some families seem to have this peace that doesn't come from having more money or fewer problems, but from something deeper, something you can almost touch but can't explain. Dear friends, the Feast of the Holy Family isn't just another day in the Christmas season. It's a day when Jesus, Mary, and Joseph walk spiritually through our homes, touching what needs healing, bringing order where there's chaos, reconciling what's been broken, and protecting what matters most. And when that presence is welcomed consciously, something shifts in the atmosphere of the house. Something organizes itself from within. Things that were scattered find their place, and what was in darkness begins to be illuminated. If you believe in the wisdom of Padre Pio and the power of the Holy Family, write in the comments, "Holy Family, bless my home." Your words aren't just typing on a screen, they're a declaration of faith that opens doors in the invisible world. But here's what almost nobody tells you. There's a gesture, incredibly ancient, beautifully simple, that Christians have always done on this day to receive this grace. It's something the Church has quietly preserved through centuries, passed down from grandmother to mother, from priest to faithful, in whispers and humble actions that the world overlooks. It's not complicated, it requires no special training, but it's so powerful that it transforms the entire spiritual environment of your home. Listen, I'm going to reveal something to you that Padre Pio knew, that the saints practiced, that the Church has always protected but rarely speaks about openly. On the Feast of the Holy Family, there's a sacred gesture you can make at the entrance of your home that acts as a spiritual threshold, a declaration, a consecration. It's about placing something on your door, something so small that many would dismiss it, yet so charged with meaning that it changes what can enter and what must stay outside. The door of your house represents the boundary between what comes in and what goes out. It's where invisible decisions are made every single day. Scripture has always highlighted the importance of doors. God commanded the Israelites to mark their doorposts during Passover. The ancients anointed doors for protection. The Psalms speak of gates that open for glory to enter. All of this carries profound meaning, and on the Feast of the Holy Family, this gesture returns with special spiritual force. What you're going to place on your door is a small sign of consecration. 3 names, just 3 names that form the holiest, purest, most loving family that ever existed. And when these names are placed on your door, you're symbolically saying something that reaches into the heavens. This house is yours. This family is yours. Our coming in and going out belong to you. Padre Pio used to say that homes where Jesus, Mary, and Joseph were honored with simplicity and love received graces that the residents themselves couldn't explain. Peace would increase. Light would become perceptible. The atmosphere would seem to breathe differently. That's what can happen in your home, not because of magic, not because of superstition, but because of a spiritual act of surrender, protection, and openness that heaven recognizes and responds to. Now, before I tell you exactly what to write and where to place it, I need you to understand something crucial. This isn't about turning your faith into a formula. This isn't about treating God like a vending machine where you put in a gesture and get out a blessing. This is about making your home a sanctuary. It's about declaring that your threshold, your entrance, your family's comings and goings are under the guardianship of the Holy Family. It's about opening your door to light. The power isn't in the paper you'll write on. The power is in the faith, in the surrender, in the conscious invitation you're extending to Jesus, Mary, and Joseph to dwell in your home and remain there. This small gesture is just the outward sign of something much greater happening inside you. If this message has touched your heart, don't let this grace end here. Discover the ebook, The Spiritual Secrets of St. Padre Pio. This material was created for those who want to deepen their faith and walk closer to God. inspired by the teachings of one of the most beloved and mystical saints of our time. In it, you'll find powerful prayers, profound reflections, and practical guidance for living Padre Pio's spirituality in daily life. You'll also encounter real stories of miracles and conversions that strengthen faith, restore hope, and bring peace to the heart. Padre Pio taught that faith lived with sincerity can transform everything. This ebook is an invitation for you to take a concrete step in your spiritual life. The link to access it is pinned in the comments. Now let me take you deeper into something most people never consider. Why are doors so spiritually significant? Why did God pay such close attention to doorways throughout Scripture? Why did the ancient faithful treat the entrance of their homes with such reverence? Think about it. A door is more than wood and hinges. It's a threshold, a crossing point, a place of decision. Every single day, your door witnesses what enters your home and what leaves it. People cross that threshold bringing their energy, their words, their intentions, their moods. News arrives through that door. Conversations begin there. Arguments start there. Reconciliations happen there. Your door is where your home breathes the world and offers something back. In the book of Exodus, when God was preparing to deliver his people from Egypt, he gave very specific instructions about doors. He told the Israelites to take the blood of the lamb and mark the doorposts and lintels of their houses. Why? Because the destroying angel would pass through the land, and only those homes marked with the blood would be protected. The door became the line between death and life, between slavery and freedom, between the old world and the new. That wasn't symbolic poetry. That was spiritual reality playing out in physical space. The Psalms speak constantly about gates and doors. Lift up your heads, O gates, and be lifted up, O ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. These aren't just beautiful words. They're describing something real about how spiritual realities interact with physical spaces. Gates and doors can be opened or closed to glory. They can welcome light or allow darkness. They can be guarded or left vulnerable. In ancient times, faithful families would anoint their doorposts with blessed oil. They understood that the entrance to the home needed spiritual protection. They knew that what crosses your threshold shapes the atmosphere inside. They treated their doors as sacred boundaries, not because they were superstitious, but because they understood spiritual warfare better than we do today. They knew that the enemy doesn't always announce himself with thunder and obvious evil. Sometimes he slips in through carelessness, through a door left spiritually unguarded. When Jesus entered a home, the first thing that changed was the atmosphere. The presence of Christ brought peace that people could feel in their bones. When Mary visited Elizabeth, the moment she crossed that threshold, the baby in Elizabeth's womb leaped for joy. Doorways matter. Crossings matter. Entrances carry weight in the spiritual world. Your door is the place where your family meets the world every morning and returns from the world every evening. It's where you stand when someone knocks unexpectedly. It's where you pause before stepping out into uncertainty. It's where you exhale when you finally come home after a hard day. All of that is spiritual activity, not just physical movement. The early Christians knew this. They would trace the sign of the cross on their doorways. They would speak blessings over their thresholds. They understood that a home is a little church, a domestic sanctuary. And like any sanctuary, its entrance needs to be marked, blessed and guarded, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Not because God can't protect what isn't marked, but because the marking itself is an act of faith, a declaration of whose side you're on, whose protection you're claiming. Padre Pio understood doors deeply. He knew that families were under attack in ways most people couldn't see. He knew that division, coldness, resentment, and distance often crept into homes through unguarded entrances. Not physical strangers climbing through windows, but spiritual influences settling into the atmosphere like dust you don't notice until it's thick enough to dim the light. That's why what you place on your door isn't decoration. It's not about making your house look more religious. It's a spiritual statement. It's you saying to everything in the invisible world, this entrance is claimed, this threshold is marked. This family belongs to Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Nothing that doesn't come from peace has permission to enter here. So now you understand why doors matter. Now you see why this ancient gesture has power. Now you're ready to know exactly what to place on your door and why those specific words carry the weight they do. Here's what you're going to do, and I want you to pay close attention because simplicity doesn't mean lack of power. In fact, the most powerful things in our faith are often the simplest. A whispered prayer, a sign of the cross, a candle lit in the dark, and now 3 names written on paper. You're going to take a small piece of white paper, nothing fancy, just clean, simple white paper. And on that paper, you're going to write 3 names by hand, not typed, not printed from a computer, written by your own hand, with your own pen, in your own moment of quiet intention. The 3 names are Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. That's it, just those 3 names. Nothing more is needed. No elaborate prayers written underneath, no decorative borders, no dates or symbols. Just the 3 names that form the family of Nazareth, the holiest family that ever walked this earth, the family that held God himself as a child, that protected the Savior, that lived in perfect love, perfect obedience, perfect unity. Why these 3 names specifically? Because they represent everything your home needs. Jesus brings salvation, healing, and divine presence. Mary brings maternal protection, purity, and intercession. Joseph brings guardianship, provision, and silent strength. Together they form the perfect family, and when you invoke their names over your home, you're inviting that same harmony, that same protection, that same love to dwell with you. Now, after you write these 3 names, you're going to take that paper and place it on the inside of your front door, not the outside where everyone can see it. This isn't about showing off your faith to the neighbors. This is between you and heaven. Place it on the inside, preferably at eye level, where you'll see it every time you leave and every time you return. You can tape it, you can pin it, you can even tuck it into the door frame if you want it more discreet. What matters isn't how it's fastened. What matters is the intention with which you place it there. Some people ask me, does it matter if I print it instead of writing it by hand? Listen, God looks at the heart, not at whether your handwriting is beautiful. But there's something powerful about writing these names yourself. When you take the pen in your hand and form each letter, you're engaging your whole being in the act. Your mind focuses on each name. Your hand moves with intention. Your heart opens in that moment of writing. It becomes a prayer in itself, not just preparation for a prayer. When you place Jesus, Mary, and Joseph on your door, you're making a spiritual declaration that echoes through realms we can't see. You're saying, no shadow, no division, no restlessness has the right to enter without passing through these 3 names first. You're telling heaven, guard our entrance, guard our exit, guard what comes in and what goes out. You're doing what many saints did in secret, what Padre Pio recommended to families who came to him struggling with discord and heaviness in their homes. This isn't superstition. Superstition is when you believe an object has power in itself, disconnected from God. This is devotion. Devotion is when you use a physical sign to express a spiritual reality, to focus your faith, to make your invisible trust visible. The paper doesn't protect your house. Your faith protects your house. But the paper is the sign of that faith, the reminder, the declaration. Let me tell you about Maria. She lives alone now, her children grown and scattered across the country. Her house felt empty, not just of people, but of something she couldn't name. She heard about this practice and thought it seemed almost too simple to matter. But on the Feast of the Holy Family, she sat at her kitchen table, wrote Jesus, Mary, and Joseph on a small piece of paper and placed it on her door. She said a simple prayer, Holy Family, This house is yours. Make it feel like home again. Within a week, her daughter called out of nowhere just to talk. They hadn't really talked in months, just those surface conversations that don't touch anything real. But this time, they talked for an hour. 2 days later, her son sent her a message saying he'd been thinking about her and wanted to visit. Maria didn't tell them about the paper on her door. She didn't need to. She just noticed that something had shifted. The house didn't feel empty anymore, even when she was alone. There was a presence, gentle but real, like someone had finally come home. That's the kind of thing that happens when you open your door to the Holy Family. Not fireworks, not dramatic visions, just peace settling in like a friend who's been away too long. Just relationships warming up again, just the atmosphere changing in ways you feel before you can explain. So when you write those 3 names, don't rush it. Sit down, take a breath, let yourself be present to what you're doing. This isn't a task to check off. This is a sacred moment. You're about to invite the family of Nazareth to guard your threshold. You're about to place your home under their care. That deserves your full attention, your reverence, your heart. But now you're probably wondering, why does this work? What actually happens when I place those names on my door? And that's exactly what I want to explain to you, because understanding the grace makes you more ready to receive it. When the Holy Family enters a home, they bring 3 specific graces, 3 gifts that every family desperately needs but rarely knows how to ask for. These aren't vague spiritual concepts. These are real changes that you'll notice in your daily life, in your relationships, in the very air you breathe inside your home. The first grace is the grace of interior order, and listen carefully to what this means. Where the Holy Family passes, confusion dissipates. It's like when a room has been closed up for weeks and someone finally opens the window. Fresh air rushes in, staleness rushes out, and suddenly you can breathe again. That's what happens spiritually when you welcome Jesus, Mary, and Joseph into your home. Think about the chaos that builds up in a house over time. Not physical clutter, though that's often a symptom of the deeper disorder. I'm talking about the emotional chaos, the unspoken tensions that hover over dinner, the silent arguments that never quite get resolved but never quite go away either, the anxiety that wakes you up at 3 in the morning for no reason you can name, the restlessness that makes everyone retreat to separate rooms instead of gathering together. That's disorder. That's confusion, and it's exhausting. But when the Holy Family comes in, something starts to settle. Souls find a place to rest. The constant noise in your head quiets down. Those petty irritations that used to escalate into full arguments somehow don't have the same power anymore. You notice yourself taking deeper breaths. The house feels less like a pressure cooker and more like a refuge. This isn't imagination. This is grace working in the invisible architecture of your home. The second grace runs even deeper. And it's the one most families need more than anything else, the healing of family relationships. Padre Pio used to say that the greatest spiritual battle in the world doesn't happen in faraway places or in dramatic confrontations between good and evil. It happens right inside the family. That's where the enemy works hardest, because that's where he can do the most damage. He doesn't need to make you hate each other. He just needs to make you distant. He doesn't need to cause explosive fights. He just needs to introduce coldness, bit by bit, until people who once loved deeply can barely look each other in the eye. He plants pride between parent and child. He whispers resentment between spouses. He turns siblings into strangers, and he does it so gradually that nobody notices until the damage is already deep. But here's the beautiful truth. Before the Holy Family, no division remains intact. When you place those 3 names on your door and genuinely invite them in, you're asking for something your own strength can't accomplish. You're saying, heal what I can't heal alone, restore what's been broken, bring close what pride has pushed apart. And that grace really descends. I've heard from so many people who've experienced this. Conversations that haven't happened in years suddenly happen. A parent reaches out to an adult child they've been estranged from. not even knowing why they felt moved to do it that particular day. A husband asks his wife for forgiveness about something he'd been too stubborn to address. A wife softens toward her husband in ways she thought she'd lost the capacity for. Siblings who'd grown cold find themselves laughing together again over some small thing. These aren't coincidences. This is the Holy Family working in your relationships, gently untangling knots you couldn't even see clearly, much less untie yourself. They specialize in restoration. They know how to bring warmth back to what's gone cold. The third grace is spiritual protection, and this one reaches into realms most people don't think about until something goes wrong. The Christian tradition has always understood that the doors of our homes need to be guarded spiritually. In ancient times, it was common to anoint doors with blessed oil. Today, the gesture continues in a different form, placing the family of Nazareth as guardians of your threshold. When you put Jesus, Mary, and Joseph on your door, you're placing your entrances under light. You're saying nothing that doesn't come from peace can enter here. And that protection is real. It acts in the invisible world, but its effects become visible over time. You'll notice things. That person who always brings negativity into your home somehow stops coming around as much. The arguments that used to erupt the moment someone walked through the door don't catch fire the same way. The heaviness that used to settle over the house in the evenings lifts. Sleep comes easier. Dreams are less troubled. The atmosphere just feels safer, cleaner, lighter. Padre Pio spoke often about homes that were under spiritual protection. He said you could feel it the moment you walked in. There was a peace that didn't depend on circumstances, a light that had nothing to do with how many windows were open. He said these homes received graces that the residents themselves couldn't fully explain, but they knew something was different. They knew they were being watched over. And here's what I need you to understand. This protection isn't about fear. It's not about being paranoid that evil is lurking around every corner. It's about wisdom. It's about recognizing that we live in a world where spiritual realities are just as real as physical ones, and taking sensible steps to guard what matters most. You lock your door at night. You teach your children to be careful. This is the same thing, but on a spiritual level. The Holy Family doesn't protect you because you performed a ritual correctly. They protect you because you opened your heart and your home to them, because you trusted them enough to make that small gesture of faith. And they respond to trust. They always have. So now you know the three graces: interior order, healing of relationships, and spiritual protection. Now you understand what you're really asking for when you place those names on your door. And now I'm going to teach you exactly how to do this, step by step, with the reverence it deserves. Here's exactly how you're going to do this, and I want you to approach it with your whole heart, not just your hands. First, choose your moment. If you're watching this on the Feast of the Holy Family itself, do it today. Don't wait. Don't postpone it until you have more time, or until the house is cleaner, or until you feel more spiritually prepared. You'll never feel completely ready for sacred moments. That's not how grace works. Grace meets you where you are, not where you think you should be. So do it today. If you're watching this on another day, that's fine too. The Holy Family doesn't operate on our calendar alone. They respond to sincere hearts whenever they're invited. Get your piece of white paper. It doesn't need to be special stationery. A simple piece of paper is perfect. Find a pen that writes clearly. Sit down somewhere quiet, even if it's just for 2 minutes. Put your phone away. Let the noise in your head settle a bit. Take a slow breath. And then, with intention, write the three names: Jesus, Mary, Joseph. As you write each name, let yourself be aware of who you're invoking. You're not just writing words. You're calling on the Son of God, the Mother of God, and the Guardian of the Holy Family. You're inviting them into your space, into your life, into your daily comings and goings. After you've written the names, hold the paper for a moment. Don't rush to tape it up. Just hold it and offer a simple prayer. You can use your own words, or you can pray something like this. Holy Family of Nazareth, I consecrate this home to you. I place this door, this entrance, this threshold under your protection. Guard everyone who lives here. Guard everyone who enters. Guard our steps when we leave and our hearts when we return. Let nothing that doesn't come from peace cross this doorway. Heal what's broken between us. Bring order where there's confusion. Protect us from all harm, seen and unseen. Jesus, Mary, Joseph, make this house your dwelling place. Amen. Now walk to your front door. Stand there for a second and look at it. This door has witnessed so much. All the times you've left worried and come home exhausted. All the times you've welcomed friends and said goodbye to people you love. All the ordinary comings and goings that make up a life. And now you're about to mark it as sacred space. Place the paper on the inside of the door at about eye level where you'll see it regularly. Fix it with tape or a small tack or however feels right to you. As you place it, repeat quietly, Holy Family, guard this house. Then step back, put your hand on your chest and breathe deeply. Feel your heartbeat. You've just done something ancient and powerful. You've just declared that this space belongs to God. The peace will come like a gentle breeze. You might not feel it immediately in a rush of emotion, but watch what happens in the days ahead. In the days and weeks that follow, don't forget that paper is there. Notice it when you leave in the morning. Touch the door lightly and say a quick, guard us today. Notice it when you come home at night. Let it remind you that you're entering sacred space, that the Holy Family dwells here now. And here's something important. This isn't a one-time magic spell. It's the beginning of a relationship. You've invited guests into your home, the most honored guests imaginable. Treat them like they're present, because they are. Live like Jesus, Mary, and Joseph are watching, not with judgment, but with love. Speak to each other the way you would if the Holy Family were sitting at your kitchen table. Handle conflicts the way you would if Mary were standing between you, gently asking you to remember what matters. The paper on your door isn't what protects your house. Remember that. It's the faith, the surrender, the ongoing invitation. The paper is just the visible sign of an invisible reality. It's the doorbell that announces, the Holy Family lives here now. And that changes everything. So here we are. You now know what most people don't, what the church has quietly protected through generations. You know about the three names, the door, the graces that descend when you make this simple gesture of faith. You understand that the Feast of the Holy Family isn't just another day on the calendar. It's a spiritual doorway, a moment when heaven leans close to our homes and waits to be invited in. Padre Pio used to tell families that the smallest acts of devotion, done with sincere hearts, could move mountains in the spiritual world. He'd say that while the world chases after complicated solutions and elaborate plans, God responds to the humble, the simple, the quiet gestures of trust. Writing three names on a piece of paper and placing it on your door might seem almost foolish to someone who doesn't understand spiritual realities. But you know better now. You know this is how faith works. A mustard seed, a whispered prayer, three names on white paper. This is the day to let the Holy Family cross the threshold of your home. This is the day to consecrate your entrance to light. This is the day to declare that your family, with all its imperfections and struggles and beautiful messiness, belongs to God. If these teachings have touched your heart, I want to ask you to do something. Write thank you in the comments below, not just for me, but as an act of gratitude to heaven. Your gesture helps this message reach more people who need it, more families who are struggling, more homes that need the peace only the Holy Family can bring. And listen, we need your help to keep spreading these messages. This channel exists to share the wisdom of Padre Pio, to bring hope to hearts that are weary, to remind people that they're not alone in their spiritual journey. Every like you give, Every time you share this video with someone who needs to hear it, every subscription helps us reach more souls who are searching for light. We're building something together here, a community of believers who want to live their faith deeply, authentically, with the guidance of the saints who walked before us. Your support makes that mission possible. So if this message blessed you, please like this video, share it with your family and friends, and subscribe to stay connected with this community of faith. The Holy Family is waiting at your door. All you have to do is open it. All you have to do is write those 3 names and make the invitation. And when you do, watch what happens. Watch how peace settles in. Watch how relationships begin to heal. Watch how your home transforms into what it was always meant to be, a sanctuary, a refuge, a place where God dwells. May Jesus, Mary, and Joseph bless your home. May they guard your comings and goings. May they fill every room with their presence and every heart with their peace. Go now, write the names, place them on your door, and welcome the Holy Family home.